Breaking news with Based and Bougie. So, guys, the South African genocide just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. Basically, if you guys are not aware of what's going on in South Africa, there has basically been a genocide. Now, I didn't know it was a genocide until I started to do more research because I always knew something was going down in South Africa and white people were being pushed out of their homes and their farms, but I didn't actually know it was a genocide, as in they are killing, SAing, raping these people out of their neighborhoods, their homes, and their farms. Now, it's now 2025, and this has actually escalated. This has been going on for the last 4 decades now, but this has absolutely escalated due to political corruption going on in South Africa. So in January 2025, a person called Cyril Ramaphosa, he basically passed a law allowing land seizures without compensation. Basically meaning you can go into a person's land, seize their land, and there's no compensation for it. Basically, they are saying that land seizing is for free. You can do it for free in Africa. What kind of barbaric world are you living in where you can just seize someone's stuff? I would never want to live in South Africa. Now, the person who has been leading this movement is someone called Julius Malema, who is basically the leader of the EFF, which stands for the Economic Freedom Fighters. And he's been leading this movement. And guys, let me just insert some clips of this man.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we have not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal call.
Cry babies. Cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
I can't give a guarantee of the future, especially when things are going the way they are.
Subtext.
Especially if things are going the way they are, there will be a revolution in this country, I can tell you now.
We are not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. That means at some future date, we may call for the slaughter of white people. Is that correct?
Let's deal with that at that future date. I don't know what's going to happen.
So you're saying you are not ruling out that in the future, you may very well call for the slaughter of white people?
It may not be me.
Could it be you?
It could be me, yes, but it may not be me.
Yeah, so it could be you. You could, at some future date, call for the slaughter of white people.
Shoot to kill. Hamaza. Kill the poor. The farmer. Kill the poor. The farmer. Brr, pa.
How is this allowed? How is this allowed in 2025? How is this allowed that a man can go on stage and get a group of people to chant, "We will kill them, we will kill the white people, we will kill the white farmers"? Why isn't this on mainstream media? Why isn't no one talking about this? Why are all the presidents in the West and in Africa coming out and saying, "We do not condone this"? This is barbaric, animalistic behavior. And you know what I found out, guys? This party has 1 million members. So you mean to tell me 1 million members are in support of this man openly and confidently? He's not shying away from it, guys, stating that he will kill these white settlers and these white farmers. We're living in dark time, guys. Now, a statement was actually made from the African National Congress. It was quite a long statement, so I'm just going to pull out the main parts. But basically, it starts by saying the African National Congress registers its firm rejection of the United States government's decision to grant refugees status to the 49 individuals self-identifying as Afrikaners. If you don't know what Afrikaners means, it's basically the white Africans. So the Africans are called Africans, and then the white Africans are called Afrikaners. Let it be categorically stated, there are no African refugees in South Africa. No section of our society is hounded, persecuted, or subject to ethnic victimization. Guys, let's quickly rewind that clip of the audience.
Kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa.
But yet you mean to tell me there's no victimization Anyways, it says these claims are fabrications and are cowardly political construct. Sorry, let's rewind the video one more time.
The poor, the farmer.
You guys heard that, right? Okay. And then it said this is a fabrication and is a cowardly political construct designed to legitimize our democracy and insult the sacrifices made by our generations who fought for our freedom. So basically, this is going to be a slavery thing. This year, as we commemorate the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, we recall its enduring truth that South Africans belong to all who live in it, black and white. Okay, so if it belongs to black and white, why is this man not arrested for chanting? Let me show the clip one more time.
The poor, the farmer.
If it's for all blacks and white, but okay. This further enshrined in our constitution, which affirms equality, dignity, and non-racism as the bedrock of our national life. So the South African Congress are basically stating that they do not stand for racism and they stand for equality. Let me rewind that clip one more time.
The poor, the farmer.
Am I hearing things, guys? Am I the only person that can clearly hear this guy saying that they are going to kill the white people and kill the white farmers? Anyways, then it says what the instigators of this falsehood seek is not safety but impunity from transformation. They flee not from persecution but from justice, equality, and accountability for historic privilege. So basically, I told you this was about slavery. They said that these people are fleeing accountability for historic privilege. What? I don't understand. So you mean to tell me these people are being they're being raped, they're being assaulted, they're being thrown out of their homes and land because of something their grandmas did? People that they don't even know, they've never been around, they don't even believe in the same values that they did, but they are being held accountable for it. No. And the part that pisses me off is the fact that they said historic privilege. It's not a privilege. You know, farming is something where like it is probably I personally think is probably the hardest job out there. It's not like my job where I can just sit on a computer and type my hands. No, you have to use your hands, you have to use your feet, you have to be on your knees, and it's a very physically demanding job. You can't escape the fact that it's physically demanding. So where in the privilege are these farmers being privileged to farm? Farming is not a prestigious job. Then it says the mission of the refugees protection is to shield right-wing anti-transformation elements. The minute I see right-wing, I just know they're trying BS. But anyways, it says here, millions around the world face real persecution and they are the ones deserving of sanctuary, not those offended by democratic society working to I'm just not going to continue reading this because I feel like I'm just going to get angry if I continue reading, because just the hypocrisy of writing this statement saying that we stand for equality and South Africa belongs to white and black people, but yet that man that chanted
the poor, the farmer.
he's still roaming free. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is karma. This is karma for colonization. This is karma for the British Empire. This is karma for what the white settlers did when they came to South Africa during the 17th and 18th century. Let me just say this. These people that are currently experiencing the violence and the persecution and the deaths and the guys, because I didn't even know it was this bad. I didn't know was involved. I didn't know killing was involved. I didn't know murder was involved. But these people are not responsible for slavery that happened 7,000 years ago. They're not responsible for it. Did their ancestors do it? Yes. But are they the ancestors? No. It's like someone persecuting me for my ancestors who sold slaves to Americans during the Atlantic slave trade. Why am I being persecuted for it? I have nothing to do with it. So I just don't understand like the hypocrisy of this world. We're always talking about equality this, equality that, but yet we're the same generation that continues to persecute white people whilst claiming that we are the victims. It makes no sense to me.
Bernadette Hall.
I saw 5 black men approaching the dairy area.
Her husband David was murdered when bandits robbed their farm.
I turned around to David and I said to him that they're coming and they've got guns.
The couple fought back. David tackled to the ground. Bernadette shoved in a shed where she found her cell phone.
I couldn't make a connection. Next minute I pulled the door open and I saw David on his knees. I could see he couldn't fight anymore. And the next minute just shot him.
They executed him.
Yes.
He was on his knees.
He was on his knees in front of them. He just pointed the gun and he pulled the trigger.
The owner, Ryan Sutherland, walks out with a friend. But they come under attack. One intruder corners Sutherland, while the other chases his friend. The attackers stab Sutherland twice, then try again. Meanwhile, the other robber enters the house. Sutherland, who's since recovered, says he wants to leave the country after the incident.
Or one of the most gruesome kind of crime scenes that we have to deal with, especially, well, in South Africa. Farm murders are intentional. It's not robberies. It's intention. The intention of the attackers is, according to us and what we've seen, is to kill. It's been classified, especially on the crime stats as well, that it's attacks or robberies, burglaries. But because there is no statistic for farm murders currently in South Africa, the brutality of the farm murders in South Africa is undescribable. We found pieces of nails being pulled out. We found hands being removed from bodies. We found people raped, murdered, brutally murdered, babies, children, the farmers trying to protect their families, and there's just no stopping. The farm murders are brutal.
I even saw a story on the Daily Mail where a 72-year-old woman died in shock after seeing her grandkids getting at gunpoint. What did she do? What did this grandma and these innocent grandchildren do to this? Oh, because their ancestors came and what? That makes absolutely no sense. And what people fail to realize is that this is going to create a very dark, violent, and deadly and bloody cycle. Okay, because no person who's been great at gunpoint, without God, is ever going to have peace. And what's going to happen is a new generation of very angry, vengeful white people are going to seek vengeance towards their generation of black people. And then that generation of black people, their kids, they're going to be seeking vengeance. So it's going to be a continuous cycle. And I thought Black Lives Matter and Martin Luther King and all this talk about equality and anti-racism, I thought this was supposed to put an end to this cycle. This is why I keep saying, guys, like, the Bible is very clear to not seek vengeance. Vengeance belongs to the Lord. It belongs to him. But when we sit here and we say, no, we're going to persecute this person, I'm going to rape this person, I'm going to violently kill this person because something that the ancestors did, you guys don't understand. You are bubbling up a new generation of white people, God forbid this never happens, who will one day rise up and seek violence and vengeance. It's just an ongoing cycle that needs to end. And this is why I speak so... People always think, oh my gosh, you just want to be white. I don't care to be white. I love being black, Congolese, British. I don't care to be any race, okay? I just care to be myself. The only race I really care about is, the race of the kingdom of God, But I need people to see, like, further down the line to understand that if we do what we are doing to these white people, whether it's in the UK, Europe, and South Africa, is going to raise up a new generation of white children who have seen their great grandparents and their mothers being pushed out of their farms, raped, killed, and that's going to boil up anger in them. Now, the worst part about the South African genocide, guys, is the fact that there's zero to no news coverage. There's zero to no news coverage, and anytime there is news coverage, it's always just Marxist talking points. Literally, you can hear the Marxism vomiting out of their mouths. For example, there was this interview of a black woman that went viral. I'm going to insert it here.
So if you think about the history of South Africa, it being under an apartheid system, where I think it is 80% of the population that are black Africans only own 4% of the land. That is because they were put in shanty towns and moved into areas where they had no rights. And so 30 plus years ago, they went through a the apartheid system ended, and they reformed their constitution under the great leader of Nelson Mandela, and that allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do. But South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These refugees are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland.
Are you
yes.
against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening, like there is in other places in Sudan, in the Congo, I'm not opposed for Congo.
Yeah, so this interview made zero to no sense. She made no sense and she just contradicted herself. The first thing she said is that those African settlers deserve it. They don't deserve shit. Excuse my French, but they don't deserve shit. Imagine working on something for 50, 60, 70 years of your life, and a person walks in and says, I want that, give it to me. Whilst you're the one that's been on your hand and knees grinding. You know, like I said, farming is not a prestigious job, and someone comes and says, give me that, I want it because of my ancestors. They don't deserve nothing. I'll be the first person to admit, you South Africans who are going into white people's homes and saying, I deserve this, I deserve that, you don't deserve shit. If it wasn't you that went out of your way to actually go do the farming, you do not deserve nothing, okay? The second thing that she said is that this is not a genocide. Okay, if this is not a genocide, let me show you a clip. You see all those white crosses that you guys are seeing? Yeah, that's the number of people that have died and been killed. These are white settlers in South Africa. You can see. So are you trying to tell me that this is not a genocide? And then the worst part about this woman and people like her is that they were the same people that were so happy for Mexican criminals to come into the USA illegally when Trump was trying to build a wall, but have a problem with 49 settlers who come in peace and come because they're actually seeking refuge and coming because you have a whole crowd of people chanting this.
Kill the poor, the farmer.
The backwardness of leftists, the backwardness is like their brains don't work. You guys are happy for criminals and drug dealers to come into the country illegally, but you are enraged by the fact that 49, not 49,000, not 4,900,000, but just 49 people have come in peace because you have Julius and his little minions screaming this.
Kill the poor, the farmer.
There was another interview that was done by John Lemon. I'm going to insert it here.
This South African farmer shit, which is the most blatantly obvious racist shit ever. It is blatantly obvious the way that we treat white South Africans, who, by the way, for the most part, and I am generalizing here, some of the wealthiest people are well-to-do people in the country. They speak their language. They own most of the land and the property. And somehow they're being granted a fast track to become Americans while they're trying to cut down on immigration from other countries. You know, you get that from where? From the brown people. On March 7th, Trump took to Truth Social to announce he is offering white South African farmers, quote, a rapid pathway to U.S. citizenship, pointing out that South Africa's new land reform push signed into law last year, which lets the government take land without compensation if the property is not being used and there's no intention to either develop or make money from it. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you some context here. They're not just taking land away from white South African farmers. White South Africans, about 9% of the population, owned 87% of the fertile land. Okay? Today, Black South Africans make up more than 90% of the population, and they only hold about 4% of all privately owned land. So what they're trying to do is say, hey, we need to fix an historical injustice.
So John Lennon went out of his way in that interview to say that those 49 white South Africans was fast-tracked into America. Wait, the same way Carmelo Anthony was also fast-tracked and not charged for killing the young white man that he killed over a seat? The same way African Americans took out money out of their pockets and raised nearly $500,000 for Carmelo Anthony and fast-tracked him to not get arrested or persecuted for the murder. He murdered him in cold blood, guys. Is that the fast track that I hope in his next interview he talks about the fast tracking of African Americans when they basically supported and funded and gave money to. Another thing he mentioned was the statistics. The statistics are completely wrong. I looked up the statistics, and 78% of the farmland is actually owned by non-white South Africans. That means only white South Africans earn 22% of the farmland. Now, the reason why people are assuming that white South African Americans own most of the farmland is because they are just doing a better job at taking care of their farmland. They are just doing a better job. You can't have farmland and do such a poor job at taking care of it and then see someone doing a good job at it and saying, I want that. That's what toddlers do. Isn't that what toddlers do, guys? They're playing with their little clay, they're playing with their little castles, and they realize the other toddler has done something better, and they just go and take. This is childish behavior. Basically, what I'm saying is that we should support collective guilt. That's what he's basically saying. We should support collective guilt. And this is a very demonic tactic. I feel like that's used by the devil to kind of victimize others. Because your ancestors did something, now you all need to feel bad about it, and now you all need to pay. And like I said, it creates this very dangerous and bloody cycle of just race wars that should have ended during Martin Luther King. But yet we're in 2025 and it just seems as though that is getting worse. Now, I just want to point out that the same thing happened in Zimbabwe. I believe it was during the 1980s. I may be wrong. I will correct it here. But the same thing happened in Zimbabwe, where Zimbabweans, I hope that's how you pronounced it, they basically rose up and decided to seize farms from white Zimbabwe settlers. And what happened actually is that the country actually experienced a famine because of it. They experienced a famine because of it. I'm going to insert a clip of a woman's testimony of this.
It was amazing growing up in Zimbabwe because starting off, it was very capitalist. It's a very wealthy country. Even people from neighboring African countries used to come to Zimbabwe to migrate there for a better life. So I couldn't have asked to live in any other place in the world but to grow up in Zimbabwe. It was very peaceful. So when Mugabe came into power, he didn't start off being a Marxist. It was slow walked. So when I was growing up in Zimbabwe, there was no racial tension like animosity. It was all about reconciliation and everybody moving forward away from the past of colonization. But as time went by, the corruption that he had instituted within the country, his ministers were stealing millions of dollars from the people. So now what was taking place was the economy was starting to fail, and his way of taking attention off himself was to start this Marxist rhetoric against the white farmers. So he started telling everybody that your problem is not me and my corrupt ministers. Your problem are the white farmers. They're the ones that have taken your land, and this is your land. So that's who you should be looking at. The policies that were being implemented, they all sounded great. It was like indigenization, giving the land to the people, but it never really went to the people of Zimbabwe. It went to his cronies. Right. It went to the ministers and all these, and they were building mansions that looked like office buildings. Right. And they were living like that while the rest of the population was living living in abject poverty. Like, for example, my mother, she had like an equivalent of what would be like, let's say $200,000. And then she wakes up one morning and finds out that her $200,000 can buy you a chicken at the grocery store. And that's what we lived through. And I remember we used to sit in fuel queues. You would go into the supermarket and there was nothing on the shelf because Mugabe was trying to put price controls on the food. So, when you put price controls, people are not going to, engage.
Guys, the famine in Zimbabwe was so bad that they actually had to start exporting food from outside of Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe was called the bread and butter of Africa, meaning it had every resource you needed. But yet, because the Zimbabweans couldn't manage the farms the way the white people did, that's why the country went into a famine. I did a whole documentary about this. I'm gonna put it here, and it's also going to be in the bio. You guys should definitely watch this. It goes into detail about the collapse of Africa and how it has absolutely nothing to do with colonialism, and it has everything to do with socialism and Marxism. Now, am I trying to say that white people are superior? No. Am I trying to say that white people are the best of the best? No. What I'm trying to say is that you can't go and redistribute something on the merit of race, on the basis of race. You can't do that. If you're going to redistribute something, you have to redistribute it to somebody who is competent in it. Don't just go giving away things because, oh, you're black, let me just give it away. Oh, that makes no sense. This is basically DEI. What's happening in South Africa is DEI, but it's happening in a very bloody, just violent level. And I personally predict the same thing that happened in Zimbabwe, where they had a famine, where they had an economic collapse, is the same thing that's going to happen in South Africa, which is quite unfortunate because South Africa was one of the only colonies that did substantially well after colonialism, because it took the capitalist route of running its country. But now you can see it's taken the socialist, a Marxist route of ruling its country, and this is going to end very, very, very badly. But to end this video, I just want to say that this is sad. This is very, very sad that in 2025, we are living in a time where people can be so openly racist, evil, and have so much hate in their heart. And you have these politicians, you have these journalists who are supposed to be the most intelligent people that we're supposed to be looking up to for information, who are actually supporting this demonic behavior. I also want to close off by saying that the Bible is very clear that vengeance is not ours. Vengeance is for the Lord. I think in Romans, let me get it out, Romans 12:19, it says, "Beloved, never avenge yourself, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord." So why are we going out of our... And that's the hypocrisy of African people sometimes, is we act like we're so, holier than thou. We go to church every Sunday. But look how we act. Look how we act. Look at the things that we are doing. Let me insert that video again. All the white crosses of all these white South Africans that died. And us Africans were supposed to be, we're the chosen ones. We're such Christians. Look at the way we're acting. It's just sad. It honestly breaks my heart. And I want people to understand the reason why I fight so much against this racial hate towards white people is not because I want to be white, I want to be a coon. It's because I know where this is going. Where this is going is that it's going to raise up a new generation of very angry, vengeful white people, and the cycle is just going to continue. Anyways, guys, if you guys want true journalism, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys.